Cleveland Browns had day number 9 of practice today. Due to the rain and the weather, they moved the practice inside. But before I show you some highlights and clips of Shedeur Sanders' day number 9, I want you to listen to what Todd Monken had to say about the quarterback competition and listen to what he said about Shedeur Sanders. Let's go.
Obviously, it starts with the operation.
He didn't ask for the spotlight. He earned it, rep by rep, throw by throw. A single line of practice footage, a tight spiral cutting through the rain, silence for a second, then everything changes. Because on day 9 of training camp, something happened that nobody inside that building expected to admit out loud. This isn't just about a quarterback competition anymore. This is about a kid who was told over and over that he wasn't good enough, not athletic enough, not the guy, drafted lower than anyone thought he should be, doubted before he ever threw a single NFL pass in a real game that counted. And now, he's the one making veterans in that quarterback room look over their shoulder. This is the story of Shedeur Sanders and the day the Cleveland Browns' quiet secret finally got loud. Training camp is supposed to be simple. Show up, compete, let the tape speak for itself. But nothing about this situation in Cleveland has ever been simple, and everybody who follows this team closely already knows it. There's a quarterback in that building making well over $200 million guaranteed, Deshawn Watson, a former number 1 overall pick, trying to convince an entire city he still has something left to give. And there's a rookie, a kid with a famous last name and an even bigger chip on his shoulder, trying to prove he belongs in the conversation at all, let alone at the very top of it. Rain forced practice indoors on day 9. No fans in the stands, no sunshine pouring through the open field. Just 4 walls, a scoreboard clock, and every eye in that building watching 2 men fight for one job that only one of them can walk away with. And by the end of that session, one name was trending everywhere on social media. It wasn't Watson's. Here's the thing about Cleveland. This city does not forgive easily, and it definitely does not forget. For weeks, a certain segment of local media had been quietly building a narrative, careful, measured, almost protective of the guy making the bigger paycheck. Every small flash from Watson got magnified into a headline. Every strong day from Sanders got explained away, downplayed, buried under a dozen qualifiers before it could even breathe. But then something shifted. Cleveland's offensive coordinator sat in front of reporters and said the quiet part out loud. He talked about what really matters first in any quarterback competition. Not arm talent, not measurables on a stopwatch, but operation, getting the offense lined up correctly, avoiding the kind of pre-snap chaos that gets a rookie booed off the field in his very first career start. And when asked directly about that part of the competition, he didn't hedge. He said Shedeur has come a long way in exactly that area, and he said it without being pushed into the answer.
Right. Yeah. First and foremost, can we get up the line of scrimmage and have it look like you want it to look like? Right. The first thing you've got to eliminate is absolutely football.
Right.
Okay, right? Like 11 on the field. You don't have 10. You don't have 12. Quarterback doesn't have anxiety at the line of scrimmage, right? I don't have anxiety. Do I call a timeout? Do I not? And you're getting booed off the field in your first freaking game. Yeah. All right, that's the first thing. Who of our quarterbacks can operate, right? So at least it gives us a chance. And Shedeur's come a long way that way.
It wasn't a wild declaration. It wasn't manufactured hype for a press conference camera. It was something far more dangerous for the narrative Cleveland had quietly been building all camp long. It was respect. Earned, specific, hard to walk back respect from a coach who doesn't hand those words out for free. And respect, when it's given that quietly, has a way of cutting through even the loudest media noise in the building. Let's be honest about where this competition actually started, because context matters here more than people want to admit. Nobody outside that facility expected Shedeur Sanders to be in a genuine fight for QB1 this early in his career. Analysts picked him apart before camp even opened. Too small an arm, some said. Falls off his back foot under pressure. Can't operate fast enough at this level, not against real NFL speed and real NFL disguises on defense. The coaching staff itself didn't pretend he was some athletic freak either. It was said plainly, almost matter-of-fact, in front of a room full of reporters, Shedeur isn't a true dual-threat quarterback by today's standard. 20 years ago, in a different era of football, maybe he would have been labeled differently. But he's not a statue in that pocket either. He can extend a play when it breaks down. He can pick up yards with his legs when nothing is there through the air. Enough to keep a defense honest, enough to add another layer to what a defensive coordinator has to prepare for on a Sunday afternoon. It's not flash, it's function, and in this league, function is what actually wins a starting job, no matter how many highlight reels get posted online by fan accounts chasing clicks. Meanwhile, across that same quarterback room, Deshawn Watson has looked, according to more than one person close to the building, like a man playing catch-up in a sport he's supposed to have already mastered years ago. Rusty, searching for a rhythm that used to come naturally to him. Human, in a way that's hard for a franchise to admit after everything they invested to bring him there in the first place. For an organization that bet everything, draft capital, salary cap space, its own public reputation on Deshawn Watson years ago, that is an incredibly hard sentence for anyone inside that building to even whisper, let alone say out loud on live radio in front of an entire city. And then came the voice nobody expected to speak up so directly and so publicly. A former NFL defensive back turned analyst didn't tiptoe around any of it. He came out and said plainly what a lot of people close to this organization had been privately thinking but were too cautious to say on the record, that Shedeur Sanders isn't just surviving inside Cleveland's long-term plan at quarterback. He fits it. He might actually be the plan. He pointed to something deeper than arm strength or a 40 time on a stopwatch. He talked about processing speed under duress, poise when the pocket collapses around him, the ability to take a hard coaching correction on one single rep and not repeat that same mistake on the very next play. Those are the traits that never show up in a flashy highlight reel, but they're exactly the traits that keep a young quarterback employed in this league for a full decade, not just a single fleeting season.
Nick.
Deshawn has had 2 good practices in 8 games. What in the hell are we doing? Seriously. Like, I get it. He's the $35 million man or whatever he's making, has already made this year. I understand that you might want to leverage Deshawn to make sure that Shedeur is on point in this quarterback every single way. I get it. But the Kool-Aid drinking on Deshawn Watson in this town is absolutely...
For a franchise that has been burned, embarrassed, and second-guessed by its own quarterback decisions for years now, hearing a credible outside voice say clearly, this kid fits, that lands differently than another routine training camp soundbite meant to fill airtime. What's remarkable about Shedeur through all of this isn't only what he's doing with a football in his hands, it's how he's carrying himself when the ball isn't even in play at all. No excuses after a tough rep, no blaming the protection up front, the rain outside, or the walls of an indoor practice facility closing in the throwing windows he'd normally have outdoors on a clear day. Just the next play, the next rep, the next day on the calendar, treated exactly the same as the one before it, win or lose. People around the building have started to notice that pattern, that quiet, stubborn belief in himself that never seems to crack, no matter how loud the outside noise gets, no matter how many national shows spend an entire segment debating whether he even deserves to be in this conversation at all. It's the same kind of quiet conviction people saw from his father decades earlier on a football field. Not arrogance for the cameras, but genuine conviction behind closed doors where nobody's watching. A refusal to let anybody else write the ending to his own story. That kind of mindset doesn't guarantee anything once the lights come on for real on a Sunday afternoon in front of 70,000 people, but it buys a young player something just as valuable during the long grind of August. Trust inside that locker room from teammates who watch a lot more closely than any camera ever could. Day 9 itself wasn't some highlight reel showcase built for television. It was indoor, physical, unglamorous training camp football, the kind that never makes a Sunday night broadcast or a primetime special. But inside that noise, Shedeur kept doing the one thing that keeps separating him from everybody else in that quarterback room, operating clean, getting the offense in and out of the huddle without any confusion, making the right checks at the line of scrimmage, delivering the football on time to the right target into the right window, snap after snap after snap, without wasted motion. Meanwhile, reports coming out of that very same session had Deshawn Watson struggling in the exact situations that are supposed to be a specialty: tight window, short field throws from inside the 10-yard line and the 3-yard line, the kind of compressed high-pressure reps that are supposed to separate a former #1 overall pick from a rookie still finding his footing in this league. If you're feeling this story the way we are right now, go ahead and hit that subscribe button, because this quarterback battle in Cleveland is only getting started, and you genuinely do not want to miss where this thing goes next. That's the real tension slowly eating away at this franchise right now, whether anyone inside the building wants to admit it publicly or not. Not simply who looks better on paper or who has the bigger name attached to their jersey, but who's actually better when it's live, when it's loud, and when it genuinely counts on the scoreboard in front of a packed stadium.
Truth here. Shedeur has looked like the better quarterback. Whether he looked great or not, he has looked like the better quarterback in 80% of the practices that we've all been able to see. And so am I happy that Deshawn is here and actually putting up a fight after completely laying down on the mat for the first 6 or 7 practices, 6, 7? Yes, I am. But this idea that the tide has turned. Guys, Shedeur was the better quarterback yesterday. So 2 days ago, Deshawn was the better.
Social media did not wait around for the Browns' official company line on any of this. It never does anymore, not in this era. Clips from Day 9 spread fast across every platform: Shedeur's operation at the line, his composure in the pocket, his command of the huddle even during a rain-shortened, last-minute moved indoors practice that could have easily thrown off anybody's natural rhythm and timing. Fans who had been cautiously optimistic all camp long suddenly got loud about it, and they didn't hold back. Debate shows lit up their phone lines within the hour. Radio stations got jammed with callers demanding answers. And through all of that noise, one sentiment kept repeating itself across timelines and comment sections over and over again. He's earned this. Not given, not gifted. Earned, one rep at a time, in front of coaches who don't hand out compliments for free and never have. Every quarterback competition eventually has a moment where the temperature in the building actually changes, where it stops being a polite, let's see how this plays out over camp, and starts becoming a much sharper, much more urgent, wait, is this actually happening in real time right in front of us? For Cleveland, Day 9 might genuinely be that exact moment, the one people point back to later. Because for the first time all camp, it wasn't just fans and outside analysts pushing Shedeur's name up the depth chart from the outside looking in. It was the building itself doing the pushing, through the coordinator's own carefully chosen words in front of a live microphone, through a respected analyst's public endorsements on the record, through a locker room that keeps quietly rallying around a rookie who simply refuses to blink under pressure, no matter the situation. The Browns haven't officially named a starter yet. Nobody inside that building is popping champagne over one rainy Wednesday practice in August, but something has clearly shifted underneath the surface, and you can feel it. You can feel it in every leaked clip, every carefully worded quote, every fresh headline that came out of that single Wednesday session. So where does all of this actually go from here, once the pads really start cracking? Preseason games are coming fast now. Real bullets, real contact, real stakes. The kind of pressure that finally separates training camp legends from actual, reliable NFL starting quarterbacks who can hold up over an entire season. Shedeur is going to have to prove that Day 9 wasn't just a moment that caught fire online for 48 hours. It has to become an actual pattern, week after week, in front of an entire fan base that is watching every single throw, every single decision, every single read. But if the last few weeks inside this building have taught this franchise anything at all, it's this. Betting against Shedeur Sanders has been a consistently losing bet all camp long, and the tape backs that up. He's outworked the doubt that followed him into the league from the very first day of the draft process. He's outplayed the depth chart he was originally handed on paper when camp opened. And now, piece by piece, quote by quote, rep by rep, he's forcing an entire organization to seriously reconsider what they thought they already knew about their own quarterback room and their own long-term plan at the most important position on the field. Think about the timeline for a second, because it matters. This isn't a kid who walked into a wide-open situation with no competition and no pressure. He walked into a room with a former #1 overall pick still on the roster, still owed a fortune, still carrying the weight of a franchise-altering trade that changed how an entire fan base views this organization. He walked into a city that has watched quarterback after quarterback come and go for 20 years without ever finding stability at the position. He walked into a media environment that, fair or not, seemed determined to protect the investment already sitting in that quarterback room, rather than embrace the new arrival with an open mind.
That's where we're at, though. That's where we're at. Like, I definitely think this new Deshawn Watson push that we've felt over these last 48 hours, we know where it's coming from. They're priming us. They're getting us ready. They're acclimating us.
You got to agree what Nick just said about the quarterback competition. Let's call it like it is. Shedeur Sanders has dominated the Cleveland Browns training camp. Deshawn Watson.
None of that was in his control. And yet, day after day, he kept showing up and doing the only thing that was in his control: the work. Coaches talk about operating for a reason. It sounds like a small, boring word compared to arm strength or speed, but inside an NFL building, it's the difference between a quarterback who can be trusted with a franchise and one who never gets the chance. Operating means the little things: getting the protection call right before a blitz comes free, checking out of a bad play before the defense disguises something dangerous, getting 21 grown men on the same page in a 2-minute drill, with the crowd noise pumped in through speakers to simulate a road environment. It's unglamorous. It rarely trends. But it's the first box every single coach in that building needs checked before they'll even consider trusting a young quarterback with the keys. And according to the very people evaluating him every single day, Shedeur has checked that box faster than almost anyone expected, including, by the sound of it, some people inside that building itself. That's what makes this story different from the typical training camp hype cycle that shows up every single August around this time of year. This isn't a story built entirely on a couple of highlight throws pulled out of context and stitched together into a 2-minute video. It's a story built on operation, on trust, on a coordinator choosing his words carefully in front of a camera because he knows exactly how much weight they'll carry once they leave that podium. There's something almost poetic about how this has unfolded, if you step back and really look at it. A franchise that has chased a franchise quarterback for the better part of 2 decades, that has burned draft picks and cap space and public trust chasing that answer, might have found it not through a blockbuster trade or a top 5 draft slot, but through a kid who fell in the draft, who had to sit and watch team after team pass on him, who had every reason in the world to be bitter about it. Instead, he showed up to Cleveland and got to work, quietly, without demanding anything, just doing the job, day after day, rep after rep, until the people around him couldn't ignore it anymore. Maybe that's actually the real story here, underneath all the headlines and hot takes and debate show screaming matches. Not a jersey number, not a QB1 label that hasn't even officially been handed out yet by the coaching staff, not a contract figure or a draft slot from over a year ago. It's a kid who was told not good enough so many times throughout his life that he simply stopped listening to anyone else's opinion but his own, and started letting his footwork and his film do all the talking instead. And on a rainy Wednesday, inside 4 quiet walls with no fans watching from the stands and no cameras broadcasting it live to the world, he didn't need a single spectator to prove any of it to himself. He just needed the football back in his hands one more time, and one more chance to show an entire organization exactly who he really is, underneath all the outside noise, all the outside doubt, all the outside narratives written by people who have never once stepped inside that building. The competition isn't over yet, nowhere close, and everyone involved knows it. But for the first time all summer, it doesn't feel like a competition Shedeur Sanders is simply trying to win anymore. It feels like one he's already starting to own, one quiet rep at a time. And whatever happens next, whether it's Cleveland officially handing him the job in the coming weeks, or one more twist nobody sees coming before the regular season kicks off, one thing already feels true, whether the front office says it publicly or not. The kid they underestimated might end up being the answer they spent 20 years searching for. Cameras will keep rolling. Reporters will keep asking the same questions in different words, hoping for a different answer. Fans will keep arguing about it online long after this practice fades into just another line on a training camp calendar. But somewhere inside that facility, away from all the noise. Shedeur Sanders will keep doing exactly what he's been doing since the day he arrived. Showing up, putting in the work, and letting the tape make the argument nobody else needed to make for him. That's how quarterback jobs are actually won in this league. Not in a headline, not in a hot take, in a rep on a Wednesday when almost nobody outside that building is even watching.